Hello and welcome to the Stumble Across podcast. This is the podcast where basically I stumble across someone online and invite them for a chat and see what happens. I mean, this is completely unprepared, completely unfiltered, and can often lead to some interesting stories. I just put a post out there, said, who's going to come and join me for a podcast right now? And you've joined me, O'Neill. Nice to have you on.
Nice to meet you. This is an interesting prospect for a podcast. I really like it.
I don't know if it's a good idea or a bad idea.
Well, you know, it's a dangerous idea, but high risk, high reward, right?
Yep. I can tell you it is very dangerous because honestly, I've had a few people who I have joined me onto the podcast, and I'm not sure if they're going to make an episode. I'm not sure if it's going to get there.
A lot of wheat and chaff on this one. I feel like.
Yeah. So first of all, where are you from?
So right now I'm from America, United States. Right now I live in Los Angeles, California. I work in the film industry, and I podcast on the side, sort of like personal project stuff. So you posted to the podcast forum. I was doing my rounds today. I like to stay active in those just to help stay up on podcast stuff. So
for me, what advice can you give me? Obviously, I have now found the advice of maybe I have to vet the guests a little bit. I know because I know I'm stumbling across them online.
Here's the thing. As long as you have the time to sort of filter through and maybe you use your best judgment for when to cut maybe a non great interview short, I think you'll be fine.
Because I don't mind saying this, the previous one that I had literally about 10 minutes ago, it lasted for 2 minutes 30 seconds.
Oh,
and I thought, I am out of there. I'm not taking any of that. Because some people, it's like draining blood out of a stone.
You have to get people who want to talk. That's the thing. You have to find people that want to chat.
So, as for what is your podcast?
It's called the podcast. Very hard to search if you're ever looking for it because it's just podcast 3 times and it'll just populate with like cereal, crunch, podcast. So it's very impossible to find. But every week, me and my other 2 co-hosts, we pitch each other podcast ideas. And then in the B segment of the show, we make the podcast happen.
That is very interesting. So let's be honest, you're doing a lot more preparation than I am.
It's a lot less preparation in the forefront, and then we have like a writer's room in the middle. Like we take a break for the writer's room halfway through, and then we actually make it. But then the editing side of it is what I do. I'm the producer, and so goddamn, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work because they're sound designed, and I do all that. I do sound design too as well out here in LA. So.
And so what kind of got you to that point? What got you interested in podcasting?
God, I don't know where to put my finger on it. So I'm here in the States, we have NPR. I don't know if you guys have BBC, which is a similar comparison. Yeah. So that I've always been a fan of the shows on NPR. I've loved radio for a long time. And I also love, filmmaking, YouTube, all that stuff. I love content creation is sort of like my favorite thing about this industry. And I don't know what started. So we did actually have another podcast that is dead and gone, and I don't even know if I want to say the name of it because I don't want people looking it up. But we started a small podcast that just to have a podcast to talk about everybody in college wants to start a podcast, right? I think that's just kind of the up and down of it. But I really like talking, sharing my opinions, and also just having goofs and, if I can make somebody laugh, if I can entertain somebody for an hour, that's kind of like my whole deal. That's like, I just love entertaining people. And so that's really and podcasting is a cheap and somewhat easy way. Let me add codicils to both sides. Somewhat cheap and somewhat easy way to make, to entertain people.
Because I think, in 2022, obviously, COVID, lockdowns, all the rest of it, it seemed like everyone was doing podcasts. Like everyone.
Dude, I was just combing through. I don't remember why I was doing this, but I was just combing through the podcast feeds, like getting deep in the trenches, just sort of like looking at, man, in 2021, there's a lot of abandoned celebrity podcasts.
Yeah.
A lot of celebrity podcasts got abandoned in 2021 once things started opening them back up.
Yeah.
Celebrities really found that niche, was like, oh, I guess I can do a podcast, and then just left it by the wayside.
Yeah. So what do you do? Is this your day job?
No. I work for Netflix. I don't know if I could say what specifically I do for Netflix, but I work for Netflix as my like day 9 to 5, and then I do this and some freelance sound designing and sort of post production in general.
Well, I mean,
on this side.
I'm not going to go into details, but you work for Netflix like that. Like, you just threw that away. You threw it away like that was just.
I don't know how much I can say about it. I work for the programming department in post production. That's about all I can say. I think without getting maybe in trouble. I'm trying to get full time on there. I'm only contracted right now. I'm contracting them out. But
do you have any say of what goes on?
No. Okay. I'm at the bottom of the feed. I have a little bit of discretion when it comes to what my actual job is and what I do. But I don't have any say in what goes on.
Yeah.
I wish. I also do. I am working on like a TV show that I'm going to start shopping around soon, but I also can't talk about that. So for a podcast, it's not that great. Unfortunately.
When if you get home and you go and watch Netflix, do you not feel like you're at work?
It's very strange because yes, that is essentially my job, and it is. I you know what it is? I actually don't. For somebody who works in the entertainment industry, I don't watch a lot of TV or movies and stuff just because I'm so busy. I'm always working on something, either it's the podcast or my treatment or pitch deck or whatever for the show I'm working on, or a side project trying to make some extra cash and just, working on that, promoting the podcast. Like I'm so busy that I actually I'm so far behind on all TV shows.
People say to me,
and everything.
People say to me, because I work in media, I do radio and I do music as well. So I'm in a wedding band, right? Nice. And people say to me, okay, you've got those 2 jobs. What do you do as a hobby? What do you do in between? I'm like, I do nothing in between. I literally just work.
There was this. I can't attribute it because I don't remember who said it specifically. But the never work a day in your life is bullshit. Because if you love what you do and never work in your day in life, that's what they say. That's bullshit. If you love what you do, you will only do it because you love what you do until you don't have any hobbies. So true. I mean, although to be fair, you could say my podcasting is a hobby because I don't make any money off of it. In fact, I spend a lot of money on it, so it could be considered a podcast. But I would like to make money off it in the future.
I think if you're working in entertainment and media, podcasting is just a bit of a training ground for your work.
Yeah, pretty much.
Nothing else. Other than that, like what is your situation? So you moved to California?
Right? So that's that might actually be interesting for the show. So I started out in Kansas City, Missouri, Midwest, middle of the country. Not a super small town, but not a huge metropolitan city, not your New York or LA. And I kind of hate the Midwest, just the passive aggressive side of it. So I wanted to, taste more of the US. And so I moved to the East Coast in Boston, where I went to Boston University for 4 years. And then after I graduated, literally a week after, I moved out to LA mid-pandemic. Not really sure. Not mid-pandemic. This was 2021 when things started opening back up. We had vaccines finally and everything. But still a lot of confusion about what's going on with the industry. With 2 of my friends from college, we had known each other since freshman year. And I came out in LA and started doing the damn thing. So,
I mean, speaking of LA, at the very first lockdown that we had, I went straight to Netflix, right? Selling Sunset. I think me and LA had such a connection because that's all I was watching during the first lockdown. Selling Sunset.
Yeah. God.
and I guess it's probably the wrong impression of LA, right?
Nah, I don't know. So I actually haven't seen this show, but I've heard people reference it a couple times when talking about LA, especially people who aren't from the States.
Yeah.
LA is an interesting place because it's so. New York, you get the sense of New York. I think when you see like a show about New York, it's dense.
I was in New York 7 years ago, and I felt like I couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one reason why I'm not a huge fan of, like, I in film specifically, you can either pretty much live in LA or New York. There's other places, obviously, Atlanta or whatever, but those are like the 2 hubs. And New York just feels so. Yeah, it feels like you can't breathe. You never really get to see the full sky. LA, it's like, I love LA just because you can see the blue sky pretty much everywhere. And what's interesting about LA, and I think the only piece of media to actually capture this is GTA 5, it's a sprawling city. It's so different. You can be in one part of it and it's a completely different city than another part of it. I live in a part like Culver City, West LA, which is like more residential, kind of suburban. And then you go to like Hollywood, and it's Hollywood. It's packed and dense and a little bit dirty. And then you go to like Koreatown or downtown LA, and it's just like they're completely different vibes. It's really interesting.
Well, what about the LA party life though?
I'm kind of lame. I don't party a lot. I will say I mainly run in the circles of like filmmakers, especially like younger filmmakers, and it's very fun. It's like being for the most part, it's like being in like a nerdy frat almost, where it's like, everybody just kind of repeats the same jokes, and everybody, it's all in good fun, and it's inside jokes and like very specific, like industry related conversation. I thoroughly enjoy it. I used to actually work at BuzzFeed, and those parties went pretty hard, but I haven't been to like one of those parties up in the hills. I heard those get a little bit crazy. Actually, my roommate, she's not home right now, but or else I'd bring her on, but she's been to a couple of those like TikTok parties, especially the TikTok parties are weird though, because it's just like somebody posting on TikTok like, hey, I'm gonna have a party in the hills, and then everybody shows up and you don't know anybody there, and suddenly you're making out with somebody in their pool, and it's real weird. It's all in good fun. I didn't expect it to be as close to some of the parts of La La Land as it was, but I can truly say that it does have a little bit of those vibes there.
Were you?
Although that's not your day to day. That's maybe once a month on a weekend.
Yeah. Were you not terrified moving to LA? Like when you first stepped foot in LA?
Oh, no, I love LA. Right. So I went and visited before when I was applying to colleges. I was trying to come out to USC. I got in, but it was way too expensive. So I went to Boston University. Not that Boston University is much cheaper, but I couldn't afford it. But I love the weather is fantastic. Like when you step foot in LA, there's something about just like being able to see the open sky, having it be like 75 degrees and perfect, and that the weather is so beautiful in LA. It only gets hot, like hot for maybe like 2 weeks out of the year, realistically. And then the rest of it is just like a beautiful, gorgeous. I mean, I could look outside right now, just perfect blue sky, not a cloud in the sky.
Whereas here in Northern Ireland, in the UK, very rare. Very rare to get blue sky.
Yeah, I know. I'm spoiled. I'm 100% spoiled. I'm gonna go to the beach tomorrow just because I can.
I think we have about 2 weeks in the summer where we can go to the beach because of the cloud. Yeah. On this podcast as well, I like random things, right? So the podcast is random, obviously. Random guests.
Yeah.
One of my favorite sections on. So I put this post on Reddit, right? Reddit is quite a dangerous place, right? Because there's
highs and lows for sure.
Oh, yeah. But one of my favorite bits of Reddit is Ask Reddit. I guess you've been on Ask Reddit, right?
Yeah, I've been on. Yeah,
I'm scrolling down some of it. I'm scrolling down some of the things here, and one of the ones is, what life-changing purchase can you make with less than $100?
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm trying to think because it depends on your life a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Like I could say for me, as a podcaster, Wave's vocal writer, right? That was a game changer that helped me so much. But I think just sort of like a general use under a Roomba. Black Friday's coming up. A Roomba, get yourself a Roomba. Those are nice. It doesn't clean. It won't do a deep clean on your apartment, but it definitely keeps that floor of like that base level of cleanliness. It just kind of hikes that.
That's the robot Hoover, isn't it? Cheap. That's the robot that goes around.
Yeah. The vacuum robot. That
we had. I don't know what. We have a different brand of one. I actually, when we first got it, I thought it was great, but the only thing about it is it wants your help constantly.
Yeah,
it constantly is beeping and saying, "I'm stuck. Come get me. I'm running out of battery."
Yeah. Oh, that is true. I'll add a codicil of that. If you have hardwood floors, if you have carpet, I don't know if a Roomba will do you as much good as you have hardwood floors.
And we have a 11-month-old, and we've got a little cat as well. And the cat toys It does not like it does not like anything in its
Yeah,
way.
no.
Oh,
You
it
can't
doesn't
have
like
any
anything.
debris on the ground. That's true.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
true.
So you have to actually tidy your house and then
It keeps
send the robot out.
But it keeps you on your toes. It keeps you like again. It helps with that baseline of cleanliness. It's like, okay, you can't have anything on your floors if you want to be able to have a Roomba.
Someone's replying this is saying a fire extinguisher.
Oh yeah, safety. Yeah, safety stuff. There's also one I remember on the same level as like a fire extinguisher, sort of like safety, is this machine that you put over somebody's mouth and then suctions out for like if they're choking.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, and it'll like it's like a fire extinguisher. It's just for emergencies, but having that and being able to like save somebody's life with one of those, anything like that, any sort of like base safety thing, just to have. I don't know, pepper spray if you need it, but like, stuff like that just to have around for safety purposes. I think those, it's a one-time purchase and it might save your life. It always is worth it.
For not, not life-saving, but life-changing thing that I got, an AirTag, right?
Oh,
and especially now
that's a good one too.
This is when it comes to luggage, right? Because we were going to Amsterdam airport. We've never been before, but we've heard that it was mental. Like the airport is massive, right? We put an AirTag inside the luggage. As soon as we got off the plane, we couldn't find anything. We didn't know where the bags were, what room. There was like 3 or 4 different halls of which we were going to be in. Went onto the phone, located the AirTag, and you could see exactly which part of the room, which corner of the room. Oh, life! Yeah, it was life-changing.
I've seen that for people. Yeah, people use AirTags for all sort of thing. I lose my wallet and keys all the time, so I have not AirTag, but a different brand of thing. But yeah, those I've also seen people use those for kids. Like, if you're going to like an amusement park or something and you want to let your kids like have a little bit more free reign, just giving them like a backpack or maybe just like putting an AirTag in their pocket and making sure they keep onto it. Even like looping. I saw somebody like made like the little plastic loops and just looped it onto their belt so that way they can always just keep track of them.
That's so good. Really I was actually watching last night. I was watching a TikTok of. And when you get into these it's like a bit like YouTube as well. You watch one video, then you get into a dark hole and you're like lost. It was a guy who got his earbuds stolen, the Apple earbuds, and he was able to track them. So he had to fly. He had to fly for about 6 hours to try and find the thing. But he found the exact apartment. He found the exact place where this guy was, and he approached him. He knocked the door and he said, "My AirTags or my AirPods are inside your apartment."
Yeah.
It's crazy these days.
Great. I mean, it's interesting. I don't know what your opinion on sort of futurism is. I've recently come to a consensus that futurism isn't necessary. We're not heading down bad or good. We're just heading down more. I think that's useful, right? I think it's like nice to be able to track down for the day-to-day person, right? If you are just a regular person living your day-to-day life, it's convenient to be able to track down your items, your phone, your AirPods, whatever. But it does get a little bit into that apocalyptic thing where it's like, could people use this for bad?
And I know.
How bad could it be? But it's a balance for sure.
But then, like, if you think the first time the phone was ever brought in, surely you would have thought, hang on, why are we using the phone? Are they going to track us using our phone?
Yeah, exactly.
And then you
just
send
now
a text
everybody
message.
just uses one. That's my biggest argument against sort of like the negative view of the future stuff is that if everybody's using it, it's so much data and so much information that nobody's going to be able to sift through that to find. Nobody's going to care that you went to a smut shop 6 hours ago because your phone was tracked. Nobody's going to care.
I know. And also, why are you worried? Like, what are you doing?
That too. There's always that too. Bad. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Another thing that I find, and obviously, like you were saying, I don't really care. But the Alexa, I didn't know that when you speak to Alexa, it's recording your own voice, so you can go onto your account and play back all of your things. And there was a guy who he was doing that, and he caught his wife cheating on him because he heard another guy in the Alexa play whatever. Again, if you've nothing to hide, then why?
But hey, that might be useful for the guy who was getting cheated on, right? Not great for the cheater, but maybe a more accountable society. Maybe that's what it's all building towards. Is maybe we'll all just be a little bit more accountable.
So heading back to you, right? So what do you do as a kind of day job? I see you're working as Netflix kind of part time.
So mainly what I do, I'm filmmaking, but that's that sort of title is very broad now because I mean the job I was working for before this, I was actually working on workout videos like for your phone that you like work out with the person that you're doing, and I've worked on commercials, I've worked on YouTube, like video web series. I've worked on TV shows. I've worked on documentaries. I've worked on everything. And so I generally work in post-production, although this was actually advice given to me by by an alumni from my school who was like giving a talk on how their career shaped up. They actually was a producer on Breaking Bad and then became a producer on Better Call Saul. But essentially their advice was to work in post-production so you get to see the whole scope of how everything gets, because post-production sort of gets dragged along from pre-production before anything actually gets shot to all the way to the finished product. So you get to see the whole scope of a product, and then once you have enough time and get to see how a thing gets made, then you can go on to produce and start from the ground up and get that whole.
I mean, my equivalent of that is, so I work in radio, and they always say you have to start off making the tea and making the coffee to kind of read the room, and then work your way up. Yeah.
I got to skip that was one good thing about the pandemic a little bit, is I got to sort of jump that bridge a little bit, and I have to thank BuzzFeed for that one, because they were the first ones to give me that assistant editor position. But now I've sort of I jumped having to make the coffee and tea all the time too, just occasionally.
And speaking of the whole kind of lockdown things, right? This is probably one of the first occasions in, I would say, about a year that I've signed into Zoom. Because
same.
Did you not get so sick of Zoom over lockdowns? Everyone was doing Zooms.
Yeah, dude.
To be fair, members of your family actually learned how to use technology. People who didn't
there was
know
definitely a
before.
jump. There was like a jump that had to happen. Yeah. And I actually just saw a post from the Washington Post, a U.S. News thing, but they said, I just saw an article that says boomers are now addicted to their phones more so than Gen Z, Gen X. Any of that. It's boomers that are now like stuck on their phones.
Yeah. Because then there was that thing when the weekend came and the Friday night came, and you're thinking, I am go into your emails and find another kind of pub quiz that is going to be happening between the family, and that was just the dread.
Yeah, although there was some fun parts. I remember. Have you ever played Jackbox games? Like it's like the game you can do on your phone, and then you can it worked really well over Zoom, I think, because you just screen share the thing, and then you do it on your phone and play those games. Yeah, those are fun.
They were good. They were good. It's weird the fact that people will have grown up with that and think that that's just normal.
That's
that that's just total normality.
Dude, yeah, the way I think the pandemic specifically, it's going to be so interesting to see how much of that sticks around. I mean, I don't know about Northern Ireland, but out here people have sort of dropped the mask thing, but occasionally you'll see somebody wearing a mask. I hope that sort of sticks around, just so that way, people aren't giving each other the flu, right?
Yeah, I know,
and COVID now, because COVID's here to stay. But
because during the lockdowns, I didn't get a cold. You didn't get a flu. Didn't get a cold because you weren't out.
Dude, it was great.
And you're just like,
I felt invincible until I got COVID eventually. But,
I know. But then when you kind of stepped outside and everyone was kind of almost back to normal, the first time you got a cold again, it was the worst experience ever.
What is this? My body feels terrible. What is going on?
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming on. It's such
thanks for having me. This was great.
A random thing to do.
Yeah, this is a fun little random thing. Yeah.
Plug your podcast again. You might as well.
Yeah. So it's the podcast. Very hard to search. You have to use quotation marks.
Hang on, I need to let me get a pen and paper to write that down. I'm gonna forget that.
Yeah. The podcast. It's, if you put that in quotation marks when you're searching it, you can usually find it. We're also on Instagram, Twitter, all the social medias at Triple PCast. So all one word, Triple PCast. And we're doing fun stuff. We pitch new ideas. We just had a release of one of the rejected ideas. Every once in a while, we'll take one of the rejected ideas and turn that into a full-length episode.
That almost sounds like a wee bit like The Apprentice.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean by that?
Yeah, kind of. It's sort of like we pitch each other ideas, and then we sort of dissect them, and then in the B segment, we decide on which one we want to make, and then the B segment. And it's also all fun. We get weird with the goofs and stuff too. So it's very funny as well as fun.
So it's a fun apprentice.
It's a fun apprentice, definitely.
Yeah.
Good vibes.
Well, thanks so much for coming on. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.